when Elon Musk's 76-year-old mother was turned away from Paris's most exclusive luxury store simply because she didn't look rich enough. She quietly walked away without causing a scene. But when she told her son what happened, she had no idea that her private moment of rejection would spark a public movement that would change the fashion industry and maybe the world. This is a story about quiet dignity, loud transformation, and what happens when a son keeps a promise made decades ago. Before we begin, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. So go ahead, click like and subscribe. It was a gray Paris morning, the kind where the air is thick with drizzle and every building looks a little more majestic under the silver sky. Maye Musk, graceful and composed despite the long flight from America, walked slowly down Avenue Montaigne. She wore simple travel clothes, black slacks, soft shoes, and a blue sweater. Nothing fancy, but clean, classic, and warm. Her silver hair was slightly windswept, and her face showed traces of jet lag. But her eyes held a quiet determination. It was her 76th birthday. After a lifetime of sacrifice, raising 3 children alone, building her career piece by piece, Maye had decided to finally treat herself. Not with anything extravagant, just a small luxury. A silk scarf perhaps, or a pair of elegant gloves. Something to mark this milestone. Something just for her. She glanced at her reflection in the boutique windows as she walked. Her smile was faint, but real. Ahead, the entrance to Belair gleamed like a polished gem. The most exclusive fashion house in Paris. The place where celebrities shopped behind private curtains and billionaires browsed with champagne in hand. A tall doorman stood at the entrance. His name tag read Vincent. He wore a tailored black coat and had a sharp, appraising look in his eye. As Maye approached, Vincent was all smiles for a glamorous couple stepping out of a black car. He opened the door with a bow and a bienvenue, Madame Monsieur. Maye stepped forward just as the couple disappeared inside. But Vincent's smile vanished the moment he saw her. "Sorry, madam," he said. "Private event today. The store is closed." Maye looked past him. Through the glass doors, she could see other customers inside, chatting with staff, admiring handbags. "But those people just went in," she said politely. "They're on the list," Vincent replied, his voice turning cold. "Special guests only. I only wanted to buy a small gift," she explained. "It's my birthday." Vincent's eyes flicked to her shoes, her sweater, her plain handbag. "Perhaps try the shops by the river," he said. "More appropriate for your budget." The words stung. Not just because they were cruel, but because they took her back in time. To being a single mother with holes in her shoes. To being overlooked, judged, rejected. Inside the store, a young sales assistant named Zara had been arranging scarves when she noticed the exchange. Her stomach twisted with guilt as she watched Vincent dismiss the older woman. She'd seen him do it before, but this time it felt worse. The woman hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't demanded anything. She had simply asked to come in. Zara wanted to speak up, but fear of losing her job, of crossing the unspoken rules, kept her frozen. Outside, Maye gave a small nod. "Understand," she said softly. She turned away, walking back into the light rain. One drop fell on her cheek like a tear. She didn't cry. Not then. But by the time she reached the corner, she felt smaller. Not because of the rain, but because of the invisible walls people like Vincent could still build in places like Paris. She returned to her hotel, soaked, tired, and suddenly unsure of whether the city was still as magical as she'd hoped. Later that evening, she ignored the birthday messages on her phone. Even from her children. She sat by the window, watching the Paris lights blur through the raindrops. She thought about calling Elon, but what would she even say? That even now, after everything she had accomplished, there were still places she didn't belong? That she still felt like the outsider? She sighed and wiped a tear from her cheek. She would tell him tomorrow, and she had no idea how far tomorrow would go. The next morning, the Paris sky had cleared slightly, but the heaviness inside Maye lingered. She made herself a cup of hotel room coffee, bitter, weak, but warm, and stared at her phone. There was a message from Elon. "Can I call you later today? I want to hear about your birthday." She hesitated. then answered, "Yes, I'm around." They connected that afternoon via video call. Elon's face lit up the screen from his office in Texas. Behind him, a wall of screens flashed rocket blueprints, equations, and timelines. "There's my birthday girl," he said, his voice playful and warm. "Did you spoil yourself today?" Maye paused, then forced a smile. "I tried." Elon squinted. "Tried? I went to a store. Belair on Avenue Montaigne." "Oh yeah, I know it. Fancy place." "I didn't get in," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. Elon frowned. "Why not?" Maye sighed. The doorman said it was closed for a private event, but she hesitated. "I saw people going in. Beautiful people. Rich people." He looked at me like I didn't belong. Told me to try the tourist shops by the river. Elon's smile vanished. He leaned forward. "What was his name?" "Vincent, I think." "But Elon, please. Don't make this a thing." He was quiet. His jaw tightened. "Mom, I need you to understand something." Maye chuckled softly. "I do. That you're about to do something dramatic." Elon leaned back. "When I was a kid, you worked 5 jobs just to keep us fed. You stood up for me every time someone tried to shut me down. When teachers doubted me. When bullies mocked me. When that landlord said we weren't welcome. I remember," she said, her voice softening. "I swore I'd make it so no one could ever humiliate you again." "Elon," she whispered, "this isn't just about you. It's about what that doorman represents. What that store teaches people to believe about worth." "Elon, promise me you won't do anything that makes headlines." "I promise I won't do anything that embarrasses you." She gave him a look. "That's not a real promise." "It's the best I can do," he said with a grin. They talked for a few more minutes. About lighter things. Her upcoming photo shoot. His rocket launch. But even as the conversation drifted, Maye saw it in his eyes. The wheels were turning. After they hung up, Maye pulled out an old shoebox from her suitcase. Inside were photographs. Of her children. Of her modeling jobs. Of the apartments they'd survived in. One photo in particular caught her attention. A 10-year-old Elon standing protectively next to her after a landlord had yelled at her for being late on rent. Even then, his expression was the same. Eyes full of ideas. And a fire that couldn't be dimmed. "What are you planning now, my boy?" she whispered to the photo. Meanwhile, back in Texas, Elon had already summoned his assistant, Theo. "I need everything on Belair. Who owns it? Who manages it? Who leases the building?" Theo blinked. "You're serious?" "I don't joke about my mom." "Noted. And I want to know if they own their building or rent it. If it's leased, find out who the property owner is. We're making an offer. You're buying a Paris luxury store because your mom was insulted?" Elon shook his head. "I'm buying it because that kind of insult is systemic. And because I can." Within hours, Theo had the information. Belair was owned by a century-old French holding company. But the building itself was leased from a real estate group based in Monaco. Elon smiled. "Perfect. Let's start there." By the end of the next day, Belair's building was no longer theirs. By the day after, Elon had signed an agreement to purchase the brand. He didn't tell anyone why. Not yet. Only a few close confidants knew. And across the ocean, Maye still had no idea that everything was already in motion. 3 days later, Paris was buzzing. Every major fashion insider had received a mysterious, last-minute invitation to an exclusive event at Belair. No details, just an embossed card reading. A new chapter begins. March 12th, 7 p.m. Belair, Avenue Montaigne. Formal attire. Some assumed it was a product launch. Others whispered about a change in ownership. But no one knew for sure. At a quiet hotel across the city, Maye Musk also received an invitation, hand-delivered on a silver tray. The envelope was heavy, the ink golden. It bore her name. Inside, a simple message. "You are cordially invited. Formal attire requested." She smiled faintly. "Oh, Elon, what did you do now?" That evening, she dressed carefully. Her elegant black dress fit just right. She chose pearl earrings, a gift from her children years ago. Her silver hair was pinned up with care. She stood in front of the mirror, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Let's see what he's done." At Belair, the street was alive with paparazzi, champagne trays, and velvet ropes. Limousines lined the curb. Celebrities stepped onto a glowing red carpet. Photographers snapped away. Guests murmured, Who's behind all this? Vincent stood at his post, chest puffed with importance. He opened the door with flair for every VIP. He didn't notice the woman stepping out of the cab until she was in front of him. May. He didn't recognize her. Not in that dress. Not with the confident posture. "Welcome to Bel Air, madam," he said with a smile and a practiced bow. She looked him directly in the eye. How nice to be welcomed this time. For a second, his smile faltered. Something about her seemed familiar. But she was already inside. The store sparkled like a palace. Crystals, fresh flowers, candlelight reflecting on polished marble. Champagne flowed. The air buzzed with curiosity. Zara, now in a sleek black dress, stood near the scarf display, watching the crowd. When she saw May, her heart skipped. Their eyes met. May gave her a small, knowing nod. Zara smiled back, grateful, and still slightly ashamed. At 6:59, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd, and at 7 p.m. sharp, a voice echoed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the grand staircase." A figure emerged at the top. The crowd gasped. Elon Musk? He stood in a tailored black suit, calm and composed. Flashes went off as whispers rippled through the room. What was he doing here? Why was he at Bel Air? Elon raised a hand, signaling for quiet. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I know many of you are wondering what this is about. I'd like to introduce someone very special. My mother, Maye Musk." A spotlight followed May as she slowly walked to the bottom of the staircase, standing beside her son. The room erupted in murmurs. Some recognized her instantly. Others connected the dots. Elon continued. 3 days ago, my mother came to this store. On her 76th birthday, she wanted to buy herself a small gift. Something beautiful. Something meaningful. He paused. She never made it past the front door. Dead silence. She was told the store was closed, watched others walk in, and was told, based on her appearance, that she didn't belong. Vincent, now near the back of the room, turned white. Elon looked out over the crowd. My mother has worked 5 jobs to raise 3 children. She built her career from the ground up. And even today, as a model, author, and nutritionist, she still faces moments like this. A beat passed. This isn't just about my mother. He took a step forward. It's about every person who's been made to feel less because of what they wear, how they speak, or what someone assumes they can afford. This ends tonight. People stared, unsure what was coming. I've acquired Bel Air, not to ruin it, but to rebuild it, to redefine what luxury means. There is a mix of shock and cautious curiosity. We're launching something new, something powerful, something called the Maye Project. The Maye Project, Elon continued, isn't a charity. It's a redefinition, a reawakening. He turned toward the audience, letting his words sink in. Bel Air will continue to offer the finest products, the highest craftsmanship, and the most exquisite designs. That will never change. What will change is who we believe deserves access to it. Whispers moved like waves through the crowd. From this day forward, he said, 20% of Bel Air's profits will go to support single parents, like my mother once was, who are working to give their children a better life. They're the real heroes, and they've been invisible in places like this for far too long. A pause. People listen more closely now. We're also creating a new collection, the Community Collection, featuring luxury pieces at reduced prices, available exclusively to teachers, nurses, first responders, social workers, and others who serve their communities. Murmurs of surprise. Interest. Some guests looked around, impressed. Others skeptical. I know what some of you may be thinking, Elon said. This will devalue the brand. It will water down exclusivity. But let me ask you this. He looked around the room. Is luxury about excluding people, or about celebrating beauty, quality, and meaning? Shouldn't the woman who teaches your children, or the nurse who stayed past her shift, deserve to feel valued? Deserve to feel seen? A designer in the crowd frowned, whispering to a colleague. Another nodded thoughtfully. And there's one more thing, Elon added. The biggest change. He glanced at Vincent in the back. From this moment forward, Bel Air will welcome everyone. No more gatekeeping based on clothes, shoes, or assumptions. Everyone who walks through those doors will be treated with the same dignity and respect, whether they're buying a 10,000 euro handbag or simply admiring the display. The room fell silent. Then applause. It started small, then grew. Zara clapped first, then others. Even a few of the skeptical designers joined in. Maye stood tall beside her son. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence said everything. Vincent, now ghost pale, looked like he wanted to disappear. Backstage, Madame Dupont, the store's longtime manager, was pacing. "What does this mean for us?" she asked Zara moments later. Zara replied, her voice steady. "It means we learn how to treat people better." The next morning, Belair was closed to the public. Elon held a private meeting with the entire staff. They sat nervously in the employee lounge. Salespeople, security guards, cleaners, clerks. Vincent sat in the back, avoiding eye contact. Elon stood at the front. "I want to tell you a story," he began. "When I was 24, I saved up for months to buy my mom a special gift. A scarf from a luxury store in San Francisco. I wore my best suit, cheap, secondhand, but neat. I walked in excited. He looked down, remembering. The doorman stopped me, told me the store was closed for inventory. I saw people shopping inside. I walked away, humiliated. He paused. That day, I made myself a promise. One day, I'd make enough money that no one could do that to me or to her ever again. And when I got there, I'd change the rules." He looked around the room. "I'm not firing anyone, but things will be different." He turned toward Vincent. "Some of you may need to unlearn old habits. Vincent, you'll be spending a month volunteering at a local shelter before returning to your post. Not as punishment, but to understand what judgment does to people." Vincent nodded slowly. For once, he had nothing to say. Zara was officially promoted. She would lead the new Dignity Committee. Her job would be to ensure every guest felt welcome, every staff member felt heard, and every complaint was taken seriously. In the days that followed, training began. New uniforms were ordered, stylish but approachable. Staff role-played difficult customer situations. They learned how to look people in the eye, how to listen, how to serve without assumptions. Elon walked the store every day, quietly, observing, listening. Maye visited too, sometimes just to sit quietly by the scarf display, sometimes to watch people come in. One woman, wearing a nurse's badge, approached her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for opening the door for people like me." Maye smiled. Everyone deserves to feel beautiful. Word spread fast. What had begun as a quiet act of personal justice quickly became international news. Headlines flooded social media and front pages. Elon Musk buys luxury store that rejected his mother. Belair undergoes radical transformation. Dignity is the new luxury. Some praised Elon for using his wealth and influence for good. Others accused him of virtue signaling, claiming it was a publicity stunt. But Elon didn't care about the noise. The results spoke louder than the opinions. Sales didn't decline, they soared. People who had never dared enter Belair walked through its doors, curious, hopeful, welcomed. The community collection sold out in days. A firefighter bought a bag for his wife's birthday, something he never thought he could afford. A young teacher selected a scarf she'd admired for years. An older woman, who had saved for months, was greeted like royalty. Zara and her team began collecting stories, testimonials from customers who shared what it felt like to be seen and treated with respect. One letter read, "I walked past this store for 20 years and never thought I belonged. Today, I bought my first luxury item, not because I needed it, but because I was finally allowed to want it." Maye receive hundreds of similar messages. From mothers, from immigrants, from retirees. Her story had given them permission to speak their own. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, changes kept coming. Madame Dupont, once skeptical, became one of the strongest supporters of the new mission. She met with other luxury store managers around Europe, hosting workshops on inclusive service and leadership. Vincent, after his month at the shelter, returned to Belair a different man. He stood at the door with a new posture, one of humility. He welcomed guests with a smile, not a scan. "I used to think my job was to protect the image of this store," he told Zara one evening. "Now I realize my job is to protect its soul." Zara smiled. "That's why we kept you." Elon, watching all this unfold, was already thinking ahead. He announced plans to expand the Maye project to other cities. Bel Air locations in New York, Tokyo, and Dubai would adopt the same model. Same dignity-first philosophy. Same community collection. Same profit sharing with single-parent support programs. And the impact rippled far beyond retail. Fashion schools began offering new courses: ethical luxury, inclusive design, human-centered fashion. Hospitality chains reached out to Bel Air's training team, requesting help to retrain hotel staff in empathy-first guest service. One airline launched a campaign inspired by the Maye Project: first-class treatment for every passenger. Even public institutions got involved. A government office in Canada revamped its waiting rooms, customer service, and uniforms, citing Bel Air as the inspiration. Elon established the Dignity Foundation, pledging $100 million to fund initiatives that promote access, fairness, and representation in elite spaces. And through it all, Maye stayed grounded. She gave interviews, yes, but she preferred spending time in the store, talking to customers, listening. Her favorite moment came when a young girl, no older than 12, walked in with her single mom, a hospital janitor. They didn't buy anything that day, but the little girl stared up at Maye and whispered, "I want to be like you when I grow up." Maye kneeled down, smiled, and said, "Then start by knowing you already belong." 1 year after that rainy afternoon on Avenue Montaigne, Bel Air hosted a celebration. The store closed its doors to the public for the day and welcomed a different kind of guest list: single parents, community workers, shelter volunteers, school teachers, nurses. Not celebrities, not socialites, not influencers. This time, the spotlight belonged to those who rarely received it. The store had been transformed, not in architecture, but in atmosphere. The fashion was still exquisite, the chandeliers still sparkled, but the energy was different. Softer, more human. Maye stood near the grand staircase, dressed in navy blue, her silver hair glowing under the lights. Zara was beside her, now the global director of customer experience for all Bel Air stores. "You've changed everything," Zara said. "No," Maye replied. "We did." As the guests mingled, Elon arrived, unannounced as usual, wearing a simple black suit and his signature slight grin. He stepped up onto a small stage, microphone in hand. "I want to thank you all," he said, "not just for believing in the Maye Project, but for helping shape it." He paused. "A year ago, this store turned away my mother because she didn't look rich. Today, that same store is the global model for how luxury can include, not exclude. And that only happened because people were willing to change." He turned toward Maye. "There's one more thing," he said, "something even she doesn't know." The crowd quieted. "I've created a new initiative under the Dignity Foundation. It's called the Door Project." He explained, "For every luxury business that partners with us, we'll fund the redesign of entry points in spaces where people are commonly judged: schools, hospitals, courts, and yes, stores. The goal is simple: make sure no one is made to feel small at the door." He looked directly at Maye. "I bought doors, Mom. Hundreds of them. And I'm opening them in your name." Maye's eyes glistened. She stepped forward, took the microphone, and said only one sentence. "The best thing my son ever built wasn't a rocket. It was a door anyone could walk through." Thunderous applause followed. That evening, as the party faded and the last guests left with hearts full, Maye and Elon walked quietly together down the now empty aisles of Bel Air. "You know," she said, "I never thought that little moment in the rain would matter so much." Elon nodded. "You didn't make a scene that day. You just walked away with grace. That's what made the difference. It wasn't loud, but it was powerful." They stopped in front of the entrance. The same golden door, but now a new plaque beside it. "Everyone belongs. Welcome to Bel Air." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elon asked, "So, Mom, did you ever buy yourself that birthday gift?" Maye smiled. "Not yet." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a box, and handed it to her. Inside was a hand-woven silk scarf, deep blue with silver threads, inspired by the rain that had fallen the day she was turned away. It was from the community collection. She held it up, tears in her eyes. "It's beautiful. You deserve it," Elon said. "So does everyone else." They stepped outside into the cool night air. The lights of Paris shimmered. And somewhere, another door was opening for someone who'd always believed it would stay shut. This story isn't just about Elon Musk. It's about his mother, about dignity, about what happens when people stop asking, "Do you belong here?" and start saying, "Welcome." It's a reminder that behind every closed door, there's an opportunity to open a better one for others. If this story moved you, help us reach 1,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button now. You can be part of our mission to share stories that inspire change. And if you'd like to hear another powerful true story, click the video on your screen now. You never know, your next favorite story might be one click away.